She invited me to see everybody and put me at the table of two physicists from the CERN, one in Geneva, one in Portugal. The two questions that really intrigued me was, what are you doing special there? And how many dimensions? This has intrigued me. I have still not to this day found a real definition of reality. Anyway, I said, so how many dimensions officially are living in the CERN? And they both said 17, very affirmatively. I couldn't believe it. I said, how come they don't know? Okay, so I dig then a little bit more, and I said, but you have an experiment. Can you describe something from another dimension? And they were searching in their brain, and I said, well, can you something the most extraordinary that you have heard about? Because I wanted to have a result. and is there a proof that their brain that it gives something? There's some document, and they said this entity the second time took a scarf.
The following is a conversation with Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger. Astrid is a scientist, a researcher, and public health expert who has worked with Swiss federal agencies, the World Health Organization, and the United Nations. Over the years, she's become a bold voice on some of the world's more debated scientific topics, particularly what's happening behind the scenes at CERN, extra dimensions, health, and the UFO connection. Some of these topics might come across as more speculative, and let's face it, people at CERN with the Large Hadron Collider have been doing some strange science for almost 2 decades. And we only hear little sound bites every so often from CERN about portals and extra dimensions and black holes. Lots of weird, vague maybes and what we might find, despite the estimated 13 billion spent on it so far. Whilst there hasn't been any confirmation, and Astrid's comments are shared with the understanding that this is third-hand information, the information is incredible and it's a real mind-bender and worth starting a conversation about. You may have seen us speak about portals or interdimensional experiments and metallic beings in viral videos, so today we're going to unpack it all. There is a lot in this episode, so I'm going to add some timestamps below to help you jump to the subjects you find most interesting. So, without further ado, the following is a conversation with Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger. Dr. Astrid, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate your time and talking to me. And if it's okay, I'd just like to get a bit of an update, an idea, I should say, about your sort of background and how you got into the subjects. Because obviously you're a scientist, you're very much into the health and policy and things like that. Where did the interest in the unknown come from and the sort of searching for what could be out there? Where did that start? Have you been able to trace it back at all?
Since I'm very little, I would say I'm always curious, and I was reading a lot very early on. But I want to go beyond the limit of what we see. I'm fascinated by the power of the invisible. What we see is not just what we see; it has many dimensions, and so instead, I did a lot of sports, on the side. So that was something I liked, but on the side, I was reading books like Relativity of Time. I was 14, 13, and I was reading how can space shrink? How can you get younger when you go into relativity theory? And I was like, this I have to find out. So I was reading, trying to understand even at my level. And I also was reading Jung at the discovery of your soul. And then at 18, I went to take a course in England on Kirlian, the Kirlian photography, because you know that you put it's a picture that emanates the energy you have around your fingers, your feet, your aura that you cannot see. And Kirlian was a Russian, and he managed to put it on the photography. So I went to London, and I just wanted to go, and it was very interesting because the person who was doing it was, not educated at university, but he had learned that, and he was healing people, and with that, and saying, you see here, you can see that and that. So we each did this. It was a 3-day course. Another thing I was always very intrigued when I met people who were not the same and did not think the same. And I'm half Norwegian. So I spent a summer at the University of Oslo, summer school to get fix my Norwegian, and I met this Norwegian from Bergen, Jan Omhans, he was called Omang. Even his name was weird for a Norwegian. And he started telling me that he was extraterrestrial. And I said, but how come? I met him in a discotheque and he guessed my date of birth just by seeing me. And I had no passport. I had no ID. I never met him before. And I was in a discotheque with two Americans during the summer school and 2 or 3 other people and girls. And when he guessed my date of birth, I said, I have to find out why. So I spent the whole evening, I didn't care about the discotheque to know what. And then we met again. So it was astrology. So he explained me, he just does that, the quarter, the spring, summer, winter, autumn, winter. And then I did not convince me. How can you find out, 16 in the month of April? I'm Aries. And so from then on, I studied astrology. I thought I have to find out. I went very deep. I went to this Paris School of Astrology, and I tested my life on that too. So that's one way. And my grandfather already had touched that, so I had his books. But that was one. But the guy was really very interesting because the next day I said we met a day after or something, and he wanted to tell me more. So I said okay, and he said, "So I'm not a human." I said, "Okay, So how can you describe yourself, and how did you arrive here?" And he said through a crash car. And my parents died, and I was a survivor, and then here I am. And I was like, so can you prove to me? I never said no because I thought, what the heck, yes, and why not? Maybe I will see him fly. And I was doing transcendental meditation also, and I wanted to fly, and I never managed. So I was experimenting with the world in a very creative way. And he was doing hologram at the time, and that was a long time ago. It was 40 years ago, and at least, yeah, 40. And so I was like, shit, he has, how can he do that? A hologram. And then he sent me, he said, that there are stones that make electricity. And I said, really? And so we kept correspondence when I was back in Switzerland. And he sent me, and he said, well, listen, if you're in London for the Kirlian, go to this newspaper and go and find that article at that date exactly, because this has an article classified by CIA of a rock that produces energy and can light up lights. And I said, okay, I did it. And I went there and I was feeling like I'm doing something that's forbidden. I thought this is something that has been classified. But I got a copy of the article. And yeah, there was a mountain, and there still exists in France, in Ireland, I think in England, where the magnetism is opposite. So you can put a ball at the end of down from the hill and it goes up.
Wow.
This exists. It does exist. But this rock classified, and this was the beginning of like, wow, there's so many things they want to make money on, and they don't give us the truth, and the Kirlian the same. Okay, so that explains to you already. Yeah, very young, between 15 and 20 years already.
Is that what kind of got you into the science? I mean, were you into science at that point? Was that kind of an introduction to it? You mentioned you sort of had that interest, but
I wanted to discover, and I needed a method to discover. So I realize now that I needed a method. But when I had to choose university later on, my dad said, no, you have to go to university. You can travel, but you have to come back and you have to study. So my dad is a military businessman and military. So he was very straight that I had to do that. kept me straight on something. My creativity had to be mastered. And so I did, okay, I would like to do know what is a human, a soul, the universe, blah, blah. So what is the closest? And I said, okay, it's anthropology of human. That was in Paris. He did not want me to go to Paris. So, okay. Then I looked at parascience. I wanted to find paranormal activity, and it was in Holland. So a no-go. And then so it was Geneva or Lausanne or Switzerland, and in Geneva there was biology. So I did biology. I started biology. And then I was bored after 2 years, and I said, "Oh gosh, I have to go to something else. Psychology, okay, psychology." Some friends said it's really good. You can keep on skiing. You can do lots of things. Because I was a top skier, I still am. But anyway, so I went into psychology, and it was psychology, ethnology, anthropology, but it was boring sometimes, except genetics and except cross-cultural health psychology and mental health. And that's where I did my master of public health, and I went to WHO to do it. And it was a cross-cultural diagnosis where you see that mental health disease is classified according to culture. It was very interesting. It's even called ethnopsychiatry, which is not used today because it doesn't make the business of pharma. So and it was very interesting because in my master science, I took a study multicentric from WHO to help them, and the result was that, for example, in Africa, the mental health diagnosis is done by the community.
Ah.
It's here, it's done by the doctor and the pharma. The pharma with their tests. And the US was the most advanced, but it was also the one that was selling most pharma. The solution, it was a case vignette study. So how would they diagnose? And it was always very methodic, but very business oriented already. Yeah, very long. Anyway, 30 years ago. So yeah, that's how I chose. And then from mental health, from WHO, I was co-opted, and I was spotted out as somebody who could do research, and I went into geriatric medicine, aging, very good, anthropology of time, on life of people. I said, okay, anthropology of space and time, and time is very interesting because how come you start with a body that's small, you have to wait until you develop, and then you age, and what happens at the end of your life? How do you feel? How do you look back, and what does it serve? What purpose does it serve finally? So so that's how I got into science, with a lot of methods, not just one method, because I found out very quickly that science is a way of thinking, and the most important is critical thinking. Never 100% sure. Always have an open door to doubt, which is not the case today, right? It's people say it's like this. No. Everybody's different. So there are many things that I learned directing a interdisciplinary program and center on gerontology, geriatric, on aging. And I wrote very quickly books on that and on the difference between men and women. And always see where is the difference, what is the standard. And the last part to where I was fascinated is that I was offered, I won the mandate, the consultancy to do research on anti-aging medicine and regenerative medicine for the with the Swiss Academy of Science and the government. And that was the most fascinating research that I could do on my own, the way I wanted. That's how I loved life. And that was another open door to what is going on now, beside all the things I have done with WHO and UN. It's that everything is reversible. You can reverse even your age. In a way, you could reverse your skin condition if you put enough efforts not to believe what people are programming into your brain, but to say to your body and talk to your stem cells, and say, okay, tonight, I heard there, please, can you help me? And we are communicating at another dimension in our own body. So this opened the door to so much different science, up to transhumanism, because technology is a part replacement. And so I started to go into this field, and I was like, wow. So I mean, I can answer many questions and many things that I have researched with ethics, because I think that science without conscience, it's a very known sentence from, I forgot his name, a French author. Science without conscience is like a shipwreck. It doesn't go anywhere. So you need moral. Moral is not a very nice word, but I was I think ethics in research and science or law, there are laws, and we don't respect them, we go against nature and life. And I have done a lot on that, and so I was also expert on that, also in WHO and in the European Union. So here I am after a long career on many fields. So I'm still interested in everything, UFOs, everything.
Obviously high level in, UN and World Health Organization. You're mixing with some of the top. You are one of the top people, but you're mixing with all of these really interesting people. And I think I saw the first time I was introduced to you there was the clip that had gone viral, and it'd been shared with me, and I'd shared it on our Instagram account, and I think it was like the most viewed clip that I'd ever put out, and millions of people had seen this. And you were talking about CERN. I think you were speaking with some physicists
Yeah.
over some of what they were doing there, and I found that fascinating because I think the Large Hadron Collider, is it Hadron? I think I was saying that correctly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation around that. Like, they spent billions and billions on this thing, and they were going to do all these sort of tests that were going to be really fascinating and could potentially answer some questions that some deep questions people had wanted the answers to for a very long time. And then it sort of just went quiet. It's so strange. Like, all of a sudden we got a few bits in the media, but then not a lot was coming out of it. I'm thinking, this could be the thing that creates a black hole, or it could find out about interdimensionality, and there's all of these potentials that could come of it, and we didn't really hear anything. And then I think I heard you talking about some conversations that you'd had. So I'd love to, if it's okay with you, to dig back into that. And what did you heard at the time, and what did you share? And have you heard anything since?
Yeah. Well, I can add something to that, as you're very open. Is that I was intrigued by CERN because I was in WHO, co-opted and paid for 3 years on the international health regulation and how to prevent an outbreak. But there are 4 types of outbreak. It's not just a virus, which has to be proven. It's really crazy what it went on. But anyway, it's infectious disease, foodborne, like salmonella outbreak, and suddenly everybody's sick because they ate intoxication. Chemical plant just explodes and traverses the frontier, and that's an outbreak of international concern. And the radionuclear. And the radionuclear is Chernobyl, Fukushima, and it traverses very quickly from one country. But when I was in charge of the case studies, those 4 typologies, because we were doing workshops and on-the-job training with the competency of people and how would they manage the outbreak, and we were the way they did in their country. But this CERN, the radionuclear has to do with the CERN. And this is why I'm mentioning it now, because I got interested and intrigued by this radionuclear because the IAEA, the International Energy Atomic Agency, I can never say it, International Atomic Energy, the UN, it's a UN agency, is in Vienna. And when there is a radionuclear event, they go. WHO cannot get in. And I was like, how come? What's going on? Why are they? And they are dealing with subatomic. They're going with radiation. They're going with the invisible. And each time I was organizing the courses, we had workshops a year online, so with Zooms and stuff. And then they had to come on the site here for 3 weeks, and each region came and they were training. So I was inviting the heads of the International Atomic Agency, call it like that. And so there were some scientists, and they came, and we said, this is creating disease. And they said, no. So, and the students are adults. They are on the spot. They're epidemiologists. They're top of Ministry of Health, and so some were like me. They said, what are they talking about? There are thyroid glands attack, cancer. And each time they were, pushing it out like, don't talk about this. We know, you don't know. And I was like, what's going on here? So when I kept on organizing courses for the University of Geneva Summer School of Global Health Human Rights and other on the spot for the Master of Public Health. And we went to WHO because I knew everybody. We went there and we again invited somebody from the CERN and the International Atomic Agency because they were too far. He was from the CERN and he came to talk about the radionuclear events. And I said, but listen, there is the CERN here. So don't you think this is dangerous, what you're doing under the CERN? Because we are having a large LHC, we'll call it like that, a ring of 27 kilometers. You're going and you're just bombing electrons one against the other. Isn't this like, radioactive and radionuclear? And I was, as a teacher, I was asking the question because I could formulate it. And they said, no, not at all, like, why are you even trying to ask a question about it? And it was so suspicious because there are people who are in front of the CERN with panels and, even French people who say it's under our agriculture and our farm. We don't want this. We don't know what's going on under. And each time they were putting it out. So you have to know that there are people resisting here who are doing rallies to tell CERN, tell us the truth, and we don't agree because now they want to do a 91-kilometer ring.
Wow.
Under. So it will go to Annecy, around French, Lyon, and it's not just 27, it's larger and bigger with more technology. So how come they have never talked of the secondary effects of this? No, they don't want to talk. Okay, so I was already in a state of there is a collusion in their brain because they were not only in the CERN, they're really hiding and not saying the truth. I know thyroid glands and radioactive elements can create cancer, and polonium can kill you like that. So this is the most dangerous. If you put radioactive waste in the sea, it stays for 300 years with cesium or strontium. So knowing this, and all those who know and listen, they know that there is something going on in the CERN that we're not aware of. So once, that was in 2016, 17, when I had all this knowledge already, and I sat in Portugal. I was invited, and it was a nice dinner of a doctor who was doing the Master of Public Health. So she invited me to see everybody and put me at the table of two physicists from the CERN, one in Geneva, one in Portugal, because there are many other mini CERNs. It's not just Geneva. And I sat at their table, and I was like so happy not to be in a boring table. There's nothing worse than to be at a great party and sitting at a table where you don't have the same vibes and conversation. So I was in the middle of the two, and I kept on as much as I could, because we were 8 at the table, talking about what intrigued me. And I really asked them to make it short. The two questions that really intrigued me was, what are you doing special there? And how many dimensions? This has intrigued me. I have still not to this day found a real definition of reality that has the same criteria. So I think it is Matsuru, what's his name? Yeah, he says there are 8 or 9. Yeah. Anyway, I said, so how many dimensions officially are living in the CERN? And they both said 17, very affirmatively. And I said, well, can you give me a document or refer to me, please? I'm taking the pen. I want to write it down. I'm a researcher. I need to check. I would like to know that. It's so important. And they said, oh, no, we don't know, but we know it's 17.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it. I said, how come they don't know? Okay, so I dig then a little bit more, and I said, but you have an experiment? Can you describe something from another dimension? And they were searching in their brain, and I said, well, can you something the most extraordinary that you have heard about? Because I wanted to have a result. and they said, well, yes, there is something, and then they started talking about the CERN portal. There's a portal for the LHC. there's a door, open, a round door, you know, like in the Stargate. And I don't know if it's as big. Yeah, there is one picture that the person is quite small actually on it. You can go and look for those interested. Go and type CERN portal LHC door, and you will see. So in front of the door, they have a room. They probably have many doors, but they have a room, and they sit around the table. And I said, so yeah, what happened? He said, well, an entity came from this portal, and like it sat at the table. And I was like, but how is this what do you mean entity? Is it a person? Is it an alien? What color are they, like us? And they couldn't answer anything. They said, no, it's not. We know, we just know it at CERN, and they cannot describe it, but they have it secondhand. It's not third, fourth. It's a very good friend who knows. And so I said, okay, I have to find something more, because that's not enough. So I said, can you proof? And is there a proof that they bring, that they give something? There's some document. And they said that this entity the second time took a scarf and left a scarf. I said, what type of scarf? And they don't know. They're not into the detail. They were really into the event and not the detail. And this entity left again. So that's the short scoop that started me trying to look for that. And so what I did is I went to look into the CERN research agenda, and I saw all those very strange names for everything, but especially around the eclipse that was announced on the 8th of April 23, if I remember. They said that they would start again the collider because they had stopped it in 2018. There had been a problem. So very strange, there was a problem, but they started it again, and I thought maybe there's something strange going on, because we are in a war for me, you know, we are in, either it's still the World War II, either it's another war, but it's a war of another dimension. And I see that the director of research is the head of research is Bertolucci, it's his name. And this Bertolucci, in his announcement, and I have printed it, 8th of April 24, it's 24, I've written it. This director of CERN is telling that, he says, I read it because I don't think you can find it. It's like if you find it in the dark net, you know, if you have to look for it. Okay, so top scientist at the Large Hadron Collider, LHC, says that the Titanic machine may possibly create or discover on 8th of April for the eclipse previously unimagined scientific phenomenon or unknown unknowns. For instance, an extra dimension. So that would be 18 then. So, and they quote Sergio Bertolucci, the head of research, who says, out of this door might come something, or we might send something through it. So, and his name is Sergio Bertolucci, Bertolucci, so you can find, who is Director for Research and Scientific Computing. It's important, there is a computing element in all this at CERN. Briefing reporters. And then they keep on talking, and at the end they say, wait, I have to find this because it's crazy how you think that, yeah, of course, adds Bertolucci, after this, okay, no, Dr. later got in touch to confirm that, yes, indeed, there would be an open door, but that even with the power of the LHC at his disposal, he would only be able to hold it open a very tiny lapse of time, 10 to 26 seconds, but during that infinitesimal amount of time, we would be able to peer into this open door, either by getting something out of it or sending something into it. Of course, adds Bertolucci, after this tiny moment, the door would again shut, bringing us back to our normal 4-dimensional world. It would be a major leap in our vision of nature, although of no practical use. That's not sure. For the time being, at least. And of course, there would be no risk to the stability of our world. And that's the end of the press release. So,
Wow. I mean, what a statement.
yeah.
Wow.
So that's serious, because they don't say 17 dimension, but they say time. And when you look at their agenda, and you can have a look at they have brochures on, they never list them very clearly, but you can see that this is near astronomy. It is linked to the research on astronomy. They talk that they are doing research on space and time, on wormhole, on black hole, on entanglement, quantum theory, and many other things. So when you see that, you say, okay, so how can I verify what they're saying? And that's where the problem starts. And it's the same with everything micro and macro. We cannot check what they're saying to us about the universe, and we cannot check what they're talking to us about subatomic. And as a methodologist of science and critical thinker, I'm like, they can just fool us the whole way, what they're doing. And I will add to that the CERN has been put on the scene at the inauguration of the Gotthard, Saint Gotthard tunnel. And Saint Gotthard means Saint God, yeah, in Swiss German. So this Saint Gotthard tunnel was inaugurated for traversing this just beside the Bridge of the Devil. And during the inauguration, our official politicians were standing there looking at the CERN open door with angels and demons going through it, and very crazy naked, looking naked dance with horns on their heads. And at that time, I thought it looks awful, but now that I put it with the CERN, you're going, okay, there is something fishy going on here. And there are many other aspects that have been confirmed by security, that there are tunnels under going to the UN, to the WEF, to Genova, under the Lake of Geneva. And so we are in a very important point in CERN, because CERN is, the name comes from Cernunnos, the god of the deer. And the deer in Latin is Cernunnos. But it is an animal, beautiful, but it's an animal with horns. And that's their cult. And it was also built on Apollonium, altar, which was not for the best gods. So there are many tricks, there are many things like that. And why Geneva? Because Geneva is under the Monte Bianco, the highest mountain, and probably one of the most powerful in the world mountain, that we don't know everything about it yet. But the geobiologists say that there is enormous energy coming from that mountain because it's a top. So that was
How do
a
you
bit long, but
how do you I mean, you sat at a table with with some people telling you just some extraordinary things, and you're, a scientist. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. Like, that's it. I'm dedicating my life to trying figuring this out. Like, how do you then sort of go to bed and just go, okay, I've processed that. You wake up in the morning, and what do you do with that information? Has it sent you down some rabbit holes since?
no, but it's an investigation. So for me, it's part of the research. Public health research is something that is in the open, and you're trying to protect people. You're trying to you're doing a scientific investigation with an ethical reason. It's to help people understand, so we can do prevention and we can stop if this is dangerous. But making the public aware is fundamental for consciousness, and so we can change something. But there is something fishy going on. What the rabbit hole is that one Sunday, there is no hazard, I think. a Sunday, and I go to where energy is good. So I went to a church where there was a mass. I could also go to a Hindu or a Buddhist. You know, for me, it's the energy and connection that counts. Anyway, I go out, I open the newspaper, and I rarely do that because I only see lies. I rarely watch TV now because I can decode the lies on and on and on, and I'm like, it's okay. I laugh for a little while and then I say it's ridiculous. Every morning, and I can invite everybody who doesn't believe me to just open the TV in the morning or for the news, and you say, news negative or positive? Negative, negative, positive for negative, negative for positive, negative. I mean, it's crazy. Only negative bashing on your brain, your soul, that who you are, that there is no hell, there is everybody, natural disaster everywhere. If there's a little river that when they make it a big flood and there's no solution, it's terrible. And so you have to be very aware what they're doing, and that's where you start. It's not a conspiracy. We're not, the conspiracy is what they are doing. They're conspiring against us. We are conspiroclast. We are stopping conspiracy. But anyway, this newspaper had on the second page, the Lord of the Ring, a ring of the Lord of the Ring of Sauron. And it was written, they took the real image of the ring. And the title was, and under it was the CERN, you know, linked to it to the CERN. And the title was, and I have it in front of me in French, so I'll translate it. Guarantee of collusion, magic or evil? Question mark.
Wow.
So that's the answer to, you know, where's my rabbit hole? Well, I was like, Lord of the Ring is a very interesting. Tolkien knew a lot of things when he wrote that, and I know he wrote a lot of Viking because that's another rabbit hole. The Vikings have been censored, you know, so much, and Tolkien wanted to put it in a movie. This I have seen, and it was forbidden. He had to change it, his Tolkien version, to look more English than Viking. So you have to know that. You have to find the old version and make a film now. Anyway, so this film was fantastic, and it really showed the war against evil. So this ring is the ring of evil, and they're taking this symbol, for those who don't know, that CERN is evil. So I'll read it now. A ring to bring everyone in. It's crazy. A ring to bring them together and push them into how you call it, dark ténèbres, into the evil hole. There is a name in English for that. That is the evil power of the ring of Sauron in the Lord of the Rings. We can take that formula very nicely to describe the 91 circular ring that the CERN wants to dig under the big Geneva, the Great Geneva, which is the biggest Geneva with France. It's a very good description, because it really does look like a black hole of energy. That is the power of the ring that attributes to the person who wears it to be invisible. The future collisioner circular also has a capacity to make disappear every democratic rights of the populations that will be touched, as along with making it unfathomable and impossible to understand its real benefits. Enthusiasts, our authorities, our federal and cantonal authorities, are very happy about the solution to avoid the blackout. It's like a cover on a casserole when we are cooking. It is signed Rashad Harmanios, not at all a Swiss name. Looks like Greek.
Wow.
And
Okay.
that they have a rule in their secret societies and stuff that they have to tell us the truth. They have to tell us. If we do not say, no, I don't consent to your ring, then the door is open for them to do what they want. There is it's like a pact that they impose on us without our consent, or no consent is consent for them.
Yeah. Do you see a crossover between this subject and the sort of UAP subject, UFO subject? Is there a connection there that you can see or that you've made?
The hypothesis that in fact there are in there circuits of nanotech that we don't understand, and that there are things of alien. It is the typology of some alien technology that we don't know at the nano scale, and it is moving in a way that we don't know. So they even quoted, I was looking for his name. It's a surgeon. Oh, I can't. Len. I was looking for his name. I will have to find it. A surgeon who was not convinced at all about alien implants, and one of his patients said, "Listen, I really want you. Look, it was a seventh or eighth case in California, and he said, okay, I will do it for free. I just want to make sure that this is a lie." And he did the surgery, and he found an implant that didn't obey any rules of surgery. I don't know if you know about that. You've heard about that?
Yes.
It's amazing. It's one of the keys to unlock the link between everything we're talking about. He said it did not respond the same in a surgery. Normally you can cut in this. You couldn't. You couldn't cut it. You couldn't move it. It was obeying other rules. And he was then convinced, and he became one of the persons who were taking out implants from people in the military, people who were abducted, and things like that. Well, in this injection, there are elements we have never seen in biology. And this is Kari Madej, Dr. Kari Madej, I do some lives, and who has almost died because she told the truth of seeing like an alien under the microscope at the temperature of human when she put drops of this injection and she heated it up and it started moving, and like in the film Alien, small little Hydra stuff. And it was scary, and the energy was very bad. She's very sensitive, and we were talking about it. Even now she doesn't even want to talk about it. She's like, it's very evil energy. So there are many angles like that where you start to see that there are other things. And in the autopsy, you can find long threads of polymers that are taking out life and trying to replace it, hybridize humans. So there is a plan of transhuman humanness. That's why I can make the link very easily with alien form of life. So it's like a hybridization that is not harmonious. So anyway, I just for your question, I'd stop there. But you see how many elements we go into now.
Yeah. Have you had any pushback from being so open about these subjects and talking so openly about them? Have you found pushback from people? Do you?
Well, I'm not tied up with a salary that I have to justify. So I am free to speak for the first time in many years. When I was, at the University of Geneva, that's not very long ago. But when I started talking, I got every course lectures canceled, and I said, yeah, it's like, yes, finally there is something happening in this world that looks like it's getting really serious. But I was not free to speak before because I could, I've lost my job. But when I spoke of astrology once 20 years ago, and I brought a scientific article, it was gerontology and astrology. It was really interesting. The professor who was the head of the center he got in a hysteria. He had a hysteria. And I thought, Ola, not open at all. So I was like, I'm challenging them too much and not open. So I never share that in my circle of work. But today, I don't need. And the fact that I can speak is really very liberating for me because I have not been pushed back, especially when I come, to podcasts like you, because they can't follow. They think, oh, they're trying anyway to make us look crazy. But my dad, as a military, was already reading books on aliens and UFOs. So I knew already that that was a topic I have studied since I'm young, and there's no question it's possible. I've never met one personally that I know. Maybe he was groomed. I mean, everything is possible. I have met some on a boat cruise from California to Mexico who say and claim that they are from some planets. And yeah, maybe, how can we know? In science, if you cannot prove, you have to still have a healthy doubt.
Yeah.
You don't know everything. And the genome is one of the key questions to debunk.
Yeah. Wow, you've spent a lot of time looking into this, haven't you? This has been a deep part of your life. Where do you see us in, I don't know, let's frame this question. This is an interesting one. Where are we in 10 years? I mean, based on what you've
Mm.
seen, based on the experiences that you've had and the research that you've done and the things that interest you, fast forward 10 years, where are we? How does it look?
But I think we are already now on different timelines, if we can call it like that. Um, for example, we are ahead of people who ignore what we are saying. We are ignorant of things that some people are ahead of us. So what happens with this? They're trying to put us all in Singularity is near. I don't know, Singularity University. All the brains, all the computers come together. AI is directing you. That's where they want to go. So that one group is going there. I don't have much hope for some of them because hope. I mean, it's their destiny. There's no hope to have. It's without any emotion we have to be sometimes. They're going into AI. They might be clones because clones exist. There are fabrics. You can go look, talk to people who have in Korea. They're doing. So there are some on this earth, and I mean that's a crazy hypothesis, but somebody said 60% people will disappear like that when the frequency will change. So I'm ready, to have to go like that. But okay, so if this is a one timeline of a scenario of a part of the population on this population, and is there not might not be people. Then there are people who want to stay human and want to learn knowledge, and this is another branch at the other extreme that want to go back to the natural. You can call it divine beings that we are, and want to now have the chance to develop who they really are without the constraint of electric grid that is cutting off our magnetic power, and not only magnetic power, it's the emergence of our new self, because they're cutting off. They know. Those who are attacking us, then they know, but they're not us. So they don't want us. So they're different. For me, there's another species. So in 10 years, either there's a group there who will be out, or if we can jump dimensions like in Marvel, we will be in another dimension. But I think that we might also that's another hypothesis, is that if we have this grid, electric grid, and it falls, and let's say, because they know since 2012 that we're going into a new era, the Maya calendar, what do you want, that we have the chance to update and upgrade, and there are solar flares, and there's a Schumann resonance, and there's all the frequency and many measurements that show that we are changing our frequency and our cell. We might even become self-regenerating, and we can live longer. This is also a possibility. And then this group might attract more and more, and then we will be able to live very differently in 10 years. That's what I hope. We don't know, because we don't know everything, but I can see signs of things happening. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I think now. I mean, I'm going to lay in bed tonight, I think, and just stare at the ceiling and try and process this. Do you? Let's wind it back a bit to layman's terms. Layman's terms. Is this a positive or I know it's so simplistic, I know, but I mean, I like to ask the question: are we moving in a positive or a negative into a positive or negative direction? And I know that's really, really simplistic, isn't it? Because it's, as you've just said, it's so complex and there's so much that goes into it. But I guess it's how you feel. Do you feel as if we've got a good chance of something coming from this that's positive, or do you think that is it a very negative story?
It's a good question. Yeah. Since the beginning of COVID, I'm sure we're going in the right direction. We are breaking. We're breaking the prison bars. We did something. For me, it was like, yes. I didn't know after how difficult it was to traverse, the tornadoes. But no, I really think it's needed. I mean, it's necessary. We are lucky that there is things opening up. I'm a bit sometimes worried of so many people denying. That's the hardest, is to see how people are closed to openness, to a fraternity and a humanity, a sorority, so much bigger and expanding. Some people are so afraid. They created fear. You see, it's not for nothing they did fear. Is that those who have fearful are closed, because anything new, they think, oh, it's a virus. It is a computer virus, yes, but it is definitely not. It is IT, it's AI, it's what you want, but it is not. I have many signs that that's a real thing. But I'll tell you other stories. I have a spiritual logic in my life. I live with other criteria than most scientists. Yeah. So when you do meditation, and I've done it, I started with Maharishi Yogi, but I then tried many different types, and but I met very interesting groups, and Hindus and Tibetans and Thailand, but when you go into a meditation state, you can really go to other dimensions. It really is possible. And the more you do it and the more you experiment, the more you realize there is another realm that has been hidden to us. And I make premonitory dreams and things like that. And so my dreams are getting better, but I'm still working in my dreams all the time. So there must be still a lot of work to do. But no, what I want to say, one of the Hindu leaders, she's called Dadi Janki, and she just passed away at 103 years old 2 years ago. In the UN, I got a prize from Kofi Annan, and so I got attention from some of the spiritual leaders. And she invited me to Oxford seminar with all the top guys from everywhere. I didn't care. I was myself, but she kept me in the loop, and I went to meditate with her and with other religious leaders. I was involved with them at the international level, and so she gave me a medal. And the Hindus have a big capacity of translocation. You read the books of the master of Spalding. They have many a big tradition. Anyway, she gave me a medal with a round square with a cross on all the last quarter of the round was black, and at the end of the black there was a diamond, and it was gold. And so she said, "You see, we're going to arrive here. So that's now we're going there." And she gave me the medal to wear, and I always think about that, and I go, yeah, it's happening. It's happening. We're going to this diamond golden age, and the lies have to be disclosed so that they fall. It's energetically.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is getting better, and there are things that we don't see that are happening, but I think it's mainly we have to keep the hope. I don't see. No, they're programming disaster because they know that we're changing.
Yeah, that sounds positive.
Yeah, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. I think it feels as though, I mean, maybe because I'm in that space and I'm talking to people who are very open-minded, who are, really searching for answers. And I think less so the sort of people that are just sitting there scrolling through, mindless people dancing on TikTok or whatever, people that are really searching for some of the bigger questions in life. So it feels positive for me because people are asking the right questions, but maybe that's because I'm in that space where, I'm with a collection of people. I don't know.
We have to be with the positive, but we have to try to bring the negative people with us. But we don't need to do anything. It's a magnet. It's like a magnet. They should come, and we by doing your program, you're helping people. So me too. So if they want, they're free.
It's such a complicated subject. It's so complex. And that's what I mean by it's a lot. There's so much that goes into it. When people are looking at this subject, and I guess a lot of people that watch my stuff is, a lot of the people have this sort of ET hypothesis, something from far away, travels here really quickly, really simple to understand, And I think when you start removing the layers and a bit like peeling the onion, it's like, okay, there's this, and then there's this, and then that goes in. And it's like, okay,
we might be aliens and we don't know. You see what I mean? It goes very far because I always thought, okay, I arrived on this planet. Let's, and you say, why did I come? And I can, in my meditation, I can see myself refusing to come because it's too difficult. And that they convinced me, no, you please go. We need you. And so if you do that, everything takes more sense. And we are all, dust of stars, or we're from different. Our making is universal. I mean, but so we might all be. Our real nature is divine. So what does it mean? It means it's somewhere from the universe. The problem is once I was in sometimes my life brings me to very strange things. It's called the Einsiedelen Forum Engelberg Forum, and it is very high level, and the Vatican is around, and everybody, and they had invited the Nobel Prize of CRISPR-Cas9. You cut the little genome and you do the engineering, and I had to replace like 1 week before, 3 days even. Oh, can you replace her because the Nobel Prize who won the CRISPR-Cas cannot come? And I was, oh no. I said, listen, I'm not going to replace her, but I'm going to talk about ethics. An angle that nobody can criticize me for because they don't bring ethics enough, and they have to. So he said, yes, it's fantastic. So I went, and I was on the same panel as the astronomer Mayor, who won also a Nobel Prize for an exoplanet, the first exoplanet. And I was going to his courses when I was a student because I wanted to know the universe. So I went to astronomy courses, and I find myself now with this professor, retired and old, and so I did my thing on ethics. That anyway, it was thought provoking, and then we had this debate, and people could ask questions to both of us, and I asked him a question, I asked him a question and I said, so you believe in exoplanets. So do you believe there is extraterrestrial life somewhere else? And he said right away, not even thinking, no, there is no life out there. And
Wow.
I almost burst into laughter, but I couldn't. And I thought, it's crazy. He doesn't even have a doubt that he doesn't know everything. You see how humility, the lack of humility is, for me, is not scientific.
Yeah.
So he's bored or he was programmed, and at the end of his life, the only thing he knows is there are exoplanets, but there is no life. We are the only ones. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
this is to show that that we have to be open, and when you meet people like that, you're sorry for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it? It's bonkers to think that we are so special, so unique that there's nothing else that we fully understand it all. It's
But
crazy.
even our body, you see,
Mm.
you think of, oh, my body is working without me. That was a discovery at one point in my life. Yeah. But you see, one thing that people will, if I they to process, I think it's important. So we are frequency. we every molecule has a wave, every wave has a frequency, every frequency can be transformed into a sound. When I speak, is a frequency, a color, cell regeneration. Frequency is everything. And I think the genome is an instrument, like a music instrument, and we are just playing the music of this instrument we have with the whole rest of the universe. And if people don't feel good because they're putting intentionally 5G and Wi-Fi everywhere, so our frequency goes down because it's electric. So grounding has been studied that if you go barefoot in the grass, your electromagnetic field starts to get back again, and it's healing. You do the same in sacred geometry places, bing. So if those who listen today are starting to think that it's important to choose the colors, the music, what you hear, you listen, what you eat, your frequency, and you bless it, and you put your good energy on the water, your good energy, and you start to take a habit of living the small things are the most important almost. I'll give you an example. People are going to freak out. This, no, I'm kidding. But when we buy something, we have code bars or QR codes. The geobiologists and radiesthesists in France, I took courses with them because I think that's one of the keys of things I don't understand is the energy of the universe and how to balance it. They said that the code bar puts down the energy of what is in the pack. So they can even show the little thread. Those who are clairaudient, that they measure with radiesthesias can be with bovis, with pendulum, or with drawing, or with Lesher. There are many ways to measure. And the way to take that off is to make it alpha on each of the codes 3-4 times, or 8, infinite. So I do that on my food every time I buy something. But what is interesting is that I'm blessing it at the same time. So you're doing something you're doing with your thought at the same time as you're cutting down their codes. Because they are actually encoding everything, so we cannot raise. But I think that will disappear. Eventually, this is going to disappear in the next few years. Those code bars and the QR codes, because some people know that.
Yeah.
You knew that?
No, no, I didn't know that. I do now.
Yeah,
That's
so
fascinating.
that's a small thing to do in the day, and also to choose really well, what you put around you and people and the thinking, and we have to be much more careful now because the energy, dark energy in the people can affect you some otherwise. Or to clean myself, I take a shower with salt. Salt has very good properties to clean. Things like that, or Epsom salt or essential oils. So we have to all work on that, I think, today.
Yeah. Superb. Okay, well, look, this has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for talking to me, and I've been gripped. I'm going to rewatch this and take some notes and things. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I
Wonderful.
really, really appreciate it.
I hope it was not, too interdisciplinary, but
No.
we covered a lot. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we crammed so much in, and it's to be able to bounce around. This is always the way, isn't it? It's always the case when you look at something, as you said earlier on, it's so complex that one thing moves on to another thing, which is another, and it's part of that. And I can imagine in your world, as someone looking at it from a scientific perspective and with an ethics perspective, and trying to bring those two things together can be quite a difficult thing.
I am always looking in a sense of coherence. It was in psychology something very interesting. It was a guy called Antonovsky, and it was very interesting because that's how you keep your mental health in balance. Sense of coherence. So in a complex world, chaos and order. Go and read what's his name, Pirogine. He was invited to the CERN. I didn't have time to study everything he said, but this sense of coherence, you can have it by having scenario A, scenario B, scenario, hypothesis, and having a sense of coherence with your life. It's very important. Sense of control, that you're controlling your way of thinking and it's not a mess. That's why I think it's good that we talk and we can debrief,
Yeah, completely. Awesome. Superb. Well, look, thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate
it. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for your great questions. I appreciate it too, the discussion.
No problem. Anytime. Hopefully we'll get another chance to speak again in the future.
Okay. Yes, I'll be ready.
All right. Take care.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.